Welcome back to the WRAM Ag Hour here on AM 1330 FM 95.7 WRAM. If you listened to the morning show yesterday, you might recognize him, Pete Schellenberger, a.k.a. Crop Duster Pete. He's a crop duster, and he took some time to come into the radio station to talk with us today. How's it going?
Super blessed right now. It's great to be here, Kailey.
I'm glad you were able to stop in, and I'm not really for the circumstances, but, I'm glad we were able to talk today.
Yeah. It all worked out. My airplane broke down yesterday, so while it was getting fixed, nothing to do, was able to do that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what really got you started in crop dusting.
Well, let's see, like I told her yesterday, what really got me started was I was taking flying lessons because I just wanted to learn how to fly, right? Third generation pilot. So I wanted to take it up and learn to be a pilot too. And then we were actually in Illinois because I used to live here. My wife is from Pontiac. So I was taking lessons, and me and the instructor were down in like Lincoln area. And we saw a crop duster taxi by, and he had his helmet on, looking cool. And my instructor said, that guy's going to make $100,000 before the end of the year. And I heard $100,000, and I thought, oh, done. That's what I want to do. But no, that really is exactly what kicked it off. And found out, like I told her yesterday, I found out later that's a lie, right? And it actually takes a whole lot longer to get to that level. But that was what drove me. That was what started. That was what got that spark in me. And then literally just in a nutshell, found somebody who was doing it at the level I wanted to do it at and was doing what I wanted to do, talked to them, got their advice, and then literally just took it and ran with it.
So you said third generation pilot. So was there any ag in your background or your family at all?
Actually, yes. A little bit. So back in it would have been like the late 70s, my grandpa and my dad bought a brand new Super Cub in 1977 or 78. He was balling. He was a bachelor then. And this was back in Wyoming, which is where I'm originally from. And they had a spray system set up on that little Super Cub, and they were spraying sagebrush, like killing sagebrush out there. So technically, yes, a little bit. Now, as far as like farming goes, that part of ag, no. I have no family history of it. But as far as like ag aviation, yes, a little bit in my blood.
Well, it's funny how that ended up working out for you. You found a new way to kind of carry that on. So what area do you cover?
Right now, we're around Monmouth, right? Working in the Monmouth area. As far as in my career, it's been anywhere from East Texas to the Carolinas to the upper portion of Florida, all the way to Minnesota, all the way down to Louisiana. And it's just literally covered that entire area. It's been anything from fertilizing pine trees to fertilizing rice, spraying rice crops, spraying cotton, corn, soybeans, all kinds of stuff. And it's just like everything in between, right? So it's a big area.
So when you say pine trees, are you meaning more like for like tree farming?
Exactly, for tree farming, for paper companies.
Okay.
Yeah, paper and lumber.
So like how does all the different types of agriculture, farming that you have been able to spray for, how have they all compared? Like what's the difference, I guess?
Well, when you, this stuff that we're doing up here in Monmouth with the corn and the soybeans, it's typically pretty easy work, right? And especially if you get in the right areas up here where it's wide open, there's not a lot of trees, it makes for pretty decently easy flying as far as like stress on your mind of like not trying to hit stuff, right? Back, and of course the stuff that we're spraying it's mostly fungicide, some insecticide, so you don't have to worry so much about it like maybe killing another crop because it's not a herbicide, right? Herbicide is meant to actually kill a plant, right? Back down in Arkansas doing rice, there's a lot of herbicide involved with rice, so it's very, very sensitive, and a lot of times the farmers will plant a sensitive crop. There will be a sensitive crop on three sides of what you're trying to spray, and so it can be very, very delicate as far as making sure you have the right wind and all that. I would say that would be a little bit harder work. Doing the stuff that we have up here is a little bit easier. Doing the fertilizer on the pine trees for the tree farming, that's typically pretty easy work. Usually shorter work hours because we do it in the wintertime. So as far as everything compared, that's how it would sit.
So you get to go all year round then?
Not quite all year round, but it is a lot. It is a lot.
So something that when I moved to the Midwest, that's something I learned about was the crop dusting. I hadn't really seen that where I'm from. So, and always the thing that comes up when you when people talk about it is just the dangers of it. So kind of talk about just like some of the risks that are involved in it. Because I know you said like the excitement side, you get to do all this flying, but they still have to worry about safety.
Yeah. There's several different risks. Obviously, you have the chemical risk because these chemicals are not really. You gotta be careful with them, right? You don't want to be breathing them. You don't want to be getting. You don't want chemical exposure. So that's something you're always having to be mindful of. The way we try to mitigate that when we are actually out spraying is, first of all, these newer airplanes they have pretty airtight cockpits, and so that helps a lot. And then, of course, you make sure you try to work into the wind, so that way every pass you make, the wind's kind of moving this stuff downwind a little bit, and you're kind of working into the wind, not flying back through your stuff. And then, of course, you have what is obvious to most people is just not hitting stuff, basically, right? And then, of course, aside from not hitting stuff, you got to make sure that you can handle the airplane yourself, that you can have good flying skills, because you got to remember we're flying a very heavy airplane. These airplanes will gross up to 16,000 pounds fully loaded. And you're having to take this airplane, fly it off of sometimes relatively short strips, in hot conditions, sometimes in windy conditions, and you're trying to fit it down in these little tight holes in the trees where the farmer planted a little 5-acre patch back in these little trees, and they want it sprayed. And you're trying to do the best job you can while at the same time not risking your life or the airplane, because you don't want to get hurt and you don't want to tear the airplane up either. So there's a whole lot that goes into it, right? So I think those would be probably 3 different levels where we're trying to stay safe. Safety's a big thing.
Exactly. And your chauffeur for today, Jared Kunkel, brought you in here to talk with us. He had us go into the flying club for their flying breakfast the other day. And when I was there talking with a lot of the younger kids getting involved, learning how to fly, them just finding their love and passion for aviation. So let's just talk about maybe taking this route as a career. Like, what steps do those kids or anybody have to take?
Well, as far as taking ag flying as a career, this would be my advice to anybody who's doing it. If you're doing it to build time so that you can go take a jump to the airlines or take a jump to like corporate flying, I wouldn't recommend doing it. I wouldn't recommend it as a time builder, because you are going to invest so much time and energy and money to get to where I'm at or to get into the industry, that by the time you get into it and you get your hours and you go to hop to another, to the airlines or something, I feel like it would just be a waste of all that time and energy and the money. So if you're going to do it, make a commitment to do it for 5 to 10 years. And then also, I would recommend, like, if you're going to do it, aim to be an owner. Don't aim to be a pilot your entire life. Aim to be the owner of the airplanes and have people fly for you at some point. You know what I mean? If it's 10 years into it or if it's 15 years into it, make that your goal. Don't just be like, hey, I'm just going to be a pilot for the rest of my life, right? Because that's not really going to pay off long term, right? But as far as somebody wanting to get in, the easiest way, I'll say, go follow me on Instagram, Crop Duster Pete. And I say that because that's why I have that page, is to help those people that's basically who the page is directed to, people who are young in the industry, in ag, or they're just young in aviation and they're wanting to start their aviation career, even if it's not in ag. But if they are wanting to get into ag, I'll be there for that specific coach. And follow me. I post stuff all the time about how I get into it, how I would do it, things that I would do, pitfalls, stuff to avoid. And I'll break all that stuff down for you. I've got the videos posted on there right now. But if you're just in a nutshell here, find somebody who is doing what you want to do if it's in ag and get close to them. If that means you got to move. I mean, me and my wife celebrated 10 years. It'll be yesterday when this airs. But we celebrated 10 years. In the first 6 years of our marriage, we moved 9 times. And it wasn't just an hour here, an hour there. No, it was like 8-hour moves, big moves. And it was because we had this do whatever it takes committed attitude of, we're going to go where we got to go to do, to get the info we got to get, to get the experience we got to get, to achieve this dream. And you got to have that attitude. And so find somebody who's doing what you want to do, get close to them, do whatever you got to do to move there, go get close to them, learn from them, do what they tell you to do, and like I said, I mean, if you find somebody who's doing what you want to do and then you just follow them, you're probably going to get a similar result.
So one of your pieces of advice was aim to be an owner. Are you an owner?
No, not yet.
So you're still working towards that.
Kind of. I've got my dreams have kind of changed over the last couple of years. I'm looking into some other stuff. I've started probably like 3 different businesses. They don't exist anymore. I've failed a couple of them, but hey, you know, we're just going to keep hitting until we find the right one, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking into a couple different businesses and working on those. That's kind of what I'm doing in the off season, right? I'm not 100% sure how much longer I'll be flying. I mean, it may be another year, it may be another 5 years. But like I said, my goal has changed from staying in the ag industry to maybe like switching industries, you know. But if my goal was still to stay in the industry, it would be to be an owner.
Oh, that makes sense. So since you've been up in the air, flying around the area and helping out with the crops, how are they looking from the air?
Honestly, they look great. Minus the few little bit of drowned out spots where it just got way too much rain. Everything looks very green, very full, you know, tall all the way to the edges, you know what I mean? Where usually it would sometimes be a little bit dry or yellow or short, stuff like that. I would say it feels a little bit behind this year because typically around this time of year, like what is it, July? Yeah, this will be July 10th when this airs. So typically by July 10th, we're rolling, you know. So maybe my guess is by like the 10th, 15th. So I'd say like by the 15th, we're probably going to be knees deep. I mean, we're going to be rolling pretty heavy in it. But everything looks great.
Perfect.
Green.
Anything else you want to make sure we add today?
I would just say I appreciate you guys having me here. Monmouth has been very welcoming, very kind. Jared having me in here on the show. Kailey, Kelsey, all y'all in here have been very kind, very welcoming, and I really appreciate that. My first night in town, I couldn't find an Uber because my ground guy wasn't here, and I landed, and I couldn't find an Uber to get to the rental house. And if I can't remember his name, Kirk, can't remember his last name, but Kirk and his wife, I know Jared knows them. They're part of the flying club. They were out there getting ready to go fly, and they actually gave me a ride and me and my bags a ride down to the Airbnb where I could get settled in because it was going to be like 6 hours I'd be sitting out there. So I appreciate you guys. It's been a great time.
Of course. Well, thanks so much for coming in. That was Pete Schellenberger here on the WRAM Ag Hour, AM 1330, FM 95.7 WRAM.